and every word of it was recorded on the phone in my cardigan pocket, screen dark, lying flat against my ribs. He cried. He said he didn't want to hurt me. I sat across from him with real tears on my face. I was genuinely grieving something. I just wasn't grieving what he thought. And I said, please don't leave. Can you just give us more time? He held my hands. He said he'd think about it. He stayed. For 6 weeks, Garrett stayed in the house in the pretense, while the folder under my seat got heavier. In week 8, he mentioned casually that he'd be consulting with someone about the financial side of things. He was warning me in a language he thought I didn't speak. He was wrong. And that is when I told him I was pregnant. He called Kira from the driveway at 11:30 that night and paced next to the truck for 40 minutes. The next morning, he bought groceries without being asked and told me everything was going to be okay. Bethany had connected me with a family law attorney named Patricia Voss, 22 years of practice. She reviewed everything, 3 recorded conversations, financial documentation, call records through the shared family plan, and said, you have enough. You have more than enough. There was one thing left. Garrett's largest client was a development group owned by his uncle Franklin Holt, a deeply religious man who had co-signed Garrett's first office lease and sent him business for 11 years because Garrett had, in Franklin's words, built something solid. A home, a wife, stability. Franklin had no idea about Kira, the brokerage partners who had just approved a significant expansion of Garrett's book of business, on the basis of a character evaluation that included a section on professional integrity and personal stability, had no idea either. That evaluation form was in our shared filing cabinet, which I was legally entitled to access. The last conversation I needed happened in week 7 of the fake pregnancy. I told Garrett I needed to hear from him that there was no one else. Garrett, looking at me across that same kitchen table, told me Kira had meant nothing, that it was a mistake, that he had chosen his family. He said these things into the microphone of the phone in my cardigan pocket, and I nodded and made us both tea. Thursday morning, I drove to Patricia's office instead of the OB-GYN Solaire. Patricia filed the divorce petition that afternoon, along with a motion for an accounting of marital funds, because the financial inquiries Garrett had been making suggested possible dissipation of marital assets, and Patricia wanted that motion in front of a judge before Garrett knew the petition existed. Service of process happened on a Friday afternoon at the brokerage office while Garrett was in a meeting with 2 colleagues and had just poured himself a cup of coffee. He called my cell phone 4 times in the following 6 minutes. I did not answer. That evening, I called Franklin Holt. What I shared was true, all of it, and Franklin had a right to know the character of the man he had been vouching for. I sent a summary letter Patricia had reviewed, a copy of the first recorded conversation, and a photograph from a Missoula trip Garrett had told me was a work conference. Franklin listened to that recording in his home in Billings and called the brokerage partners by 9 the next morning. Garrett was placed on administrative review. 2 weeks later, he resigned. I was told he cleaned out his desk in 11 minutes. Then I told him the pregnancy was not real, on the phone, myself, because I wanted to say it and hear the silence afterward. I said, there is no baby, Garrett. There never was. The divorce was finalized 14 months later. The marital home, purchased jointly in 2019 for $212,000 and appreciated considerably, was awarded to me, along with an equitable share of the investment accounts and a settlement figure large enough to pay off the mortgage and start over with something left. Garrett moved to Missoula within 6 months.